Bordering the South Atlantic Ocean between Angola and South Africa and spanning just over 824,000 square kilometers, Namibia is home to some 2 million people. Namibia, the world's fourth largest producer of uranium, also produces large quantities of zinc and is a small producer of gold and other minerals. Mining only employs 3% of the population, accounts for 8% of GDP, but provides for more than 50% of foreign exchange earnings. The Namibian economy is heavily dependent on the extraction and processing of these minerals for export, namely in the Southern African Customs Union, or SACU region, from which it also imports petroleum products, chemicals, machinery, and fuel. In 2007, increased payments from SACU put Namibia's budget into surplus for the first time since independence. A modest performance in mining and agriculture, which was caused by severe flooding in the north of Namibia, coupled with a dampened demand for mineral products due to the weaker global economy, saw economic growth slow to 3.8% in 2011 from 6.6% in 2010. Growth prospects for the medium term are positive, with GDP expected to continue its path of recovery and posting at 4.2% for 2012-2013. This is, however, dependent on strong performance in construction, farming, manufacturing, and mining. Although education receives the largest share of the national budget, the inability to equip and match learners with the skills required in the labour market has been attributed to the country's high youth unemployment rate. Namibia is making great strides, but the global economic downturn emanating from the sovereign debt crisis in the Eurozone, structural reductions in SACU, poverty and inequality may threaten the country's positive medium-term outlook.
Now, those roads with so few cars make me want to believe that perhaps Namibia is the place to be. Now, joining me in studio to take a closer look at the country as a business investment destination, I've got Thandiwe Njobe. She is head of coverage for investment banking, Southern and Central Africa at Standard Bank. And joining us from our bureau in Windhoek, Namibia, is Tara Shanika, CEO, Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Let me begin in studio by perhaps getting from you, Thandiwe, just your assessment of Namibia as an investment destination, given the constraints that we know it faces. It's a small country, it's a huge country, and it's also sort of parked within the global giant, South Africa.
Right, and I think on your last point, I think that sometimes is a benefit to Namibia. Actually, its links into the CMA then tends to get painted along the same lines as South Africa does, an investment destination. From our point of view, we like Namibia as an investment country. We think there's opportunity definitely in the mining sector. I think your clip before we started this interview pointed out that uranium, Namibia is the fourth largest producer of uranium across the globe, and we see a lot of interest coming out of China and Russia into that sector. I think other mining sectors may be a little bit more mature, say gold and diamond mining, but they still continue to produce and provide foreign exchange revenues as well as contribute significantly to GDP. So from our point of view, we like it. We like that it's a stable economy. Its political system is stable. It's demonstrated democratic governance since independence some 20 or so years ago.
Yeah.
And we like that government is fairly prudent in the way it manages its fiscus. And so we like Namibia as a destination.
So Thandiwe, if you're going to do a SWOT then for Namibia, let's just look at it in terms of competitiveness. I was just looking at the numbers and the latest figures in terms of its the ease of doing business. This is according to the World Bank. And I saw Namibia has actually been sliding down the ranks, down 4 places in this year's report to number 78, suggesting that perhaps, yes, in the past there were these instances where this was a very good place to do business, but we're sliding. Is that an assessment you'd agree with?
I think it's very difficult to gauge, not knowing the parameters that inform that assessment. I think Namibia, it offers a safe and stable investment environment. I mean, the regulatory framework is there. The financial system is one of the most sophisticated on the African continent. Its stock market is sizable in spite of it having a few listed corporates. And again, like I say, I think it should probably rank as close to South Africa as it could because of its strong links with the CMA and also South Africa being one of its larger trading partners.
Yeah, so we're going to come back to that point because then I'm going to suggest that perhaps part of the reason why it's not ranking close to South Africa is that there are domestic factors that are coming into play here. But let's take the conversation to Windhoek in Namibia, where where we have got Tara. He's the CEO of Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Tara, the question I want to put to you is, at number 78, in terms of the ease of doing business in Namibia, is that a fair reflection of where Namibia stands? Because you represent companies that operate in the Namibian environment.
Well, I think it's difficult to say yes or no. It's fairly placed, because I haven't been able to look at the main reasons why Namibia has been ranked at that rank of 78 and why it has fallen 4 places down. I think in my view, Namibia is a fairly competitive economy in terms of investments. The opportunities it offers are enormous. The political and economic systems are very stable. And I think the economic fundamentals are very strong. And I agree with my colleague that Namibia's economy is so closely linked to South Africa that you can hardly have a lot of dynamics that would be different from those of South Africa. And it begs the question why Namibia would be ranked so far away from South Africa. But I think that a lot of efforts have been put in by government and private sector and other institutions to ensure that our competitiveness is as good as it can be. Perhaps Namibia has been sliding, perhaps because maybe other countries have become so competitive so fast, and perhaps we have not been pushing hard enough to remain where we have been before.
Right. Okay. Let's take the case of those strengths then that you are talking about in terms of what Namibia offers. Give me the top ones that perhaps a person who's watching this program and is thinking perhaps of going to Namibia would look at and say, I would like to go to this place because of X and X and X.
First of all, we have been very stable politically. Since independence, we have had successive democratic, free and fair elections. We have very good governance in the country. We have an independent judiciary. Our capacity and capabilities for enforcing contracts has been proven to be one of the best in the world. When you have a contract in Namibia, we are known to be able to enforce that contract. We have also very good economic fundamentals. We have been managing the economy very well. There haven't been a social unrest, of course, in the country for many, many years, and I think this could put Namibia in a very good position to attract whatever investments that one can attract. I think we have been doing well.
So the World Bank is unfairly ranking Namibia at number 78 is the message that I'm getting. Let me come back to you, Thandiwe. One of the questions that I posed to you before we went off was why Namibia is not more, perhaps slightly higher than where it sits at number 78, because we know South Africa is sitting around, 52, I think, in terms of that overall ranking. Are there specific issues here where Namibia perhaps has been sliding in terms of improving its overall investment climate? Or is it, as Tara is suggesting, that other countries have become competitive and in the process Namibia stood still as a stable democracy and not improved itself?
I think that could be, your latter point could be possibly a reason. Like I say, it's very hard to understand the divergence between South Africa and Namibia because the economies are so closely linked. A lot of the firms that are in Namibia, that are invested in Namibia, are actually South African firms, and they dominate the Namibian stock exchange. So it may be that the competitive environment and the competitive landscape is just, it's moving much faster outside of Namibia than in Namibia at present. And maybe that's driven by also requirements. Say if we were comparing it to other African countries, I'm not sure where they rank, but there may be a bigger requirement for them to attract new investment into their economies.
One of the factors that I was looking at, I saw in our pack that we put at the top of the show that in terms of economic growth, that growth has slowed down in the past few years, whereas you do know that there are, of course, African economies that are growing at the rate of your 7, 8, 9, 10%. So your Ethiopias, your Ghanas, your Angolas, etc. So perhaps therein lies the issue. But let's talk about the opportunities then in terms of what Namibia offers. Yes, you've got these South African companies, but you're also dealing here with a very small economy in terms of overall size, numbers on the GDP level, as well as total numbers in terms of the market. This is not a market that you go and try and say, I'm going to try and service this market. You're trying to go there and look outside, no?
Right, I think you raise a very important point, because Namibia does have good investment sectors, but at the same time it's got a very small population. So on the retail or the consumer facing side, there isn't the huge growth that you'd see, say, in markets like Kenya, Ethiopia and Nigeria, which have much larger populations. What is interesting, I think, for Namibia, though, if we just look at that sector as an opportunity, is this proximity to Angola.
Right.
There is demand coming out of Angola for consumer products, and as you know, that market is coming off a lower base than Namibia. So for those companies that are well positioned to move and start driving into that Angolan market, I think there's a real opportunity.
Which
there.
sectors then would you look at?
All the consumer facing sectors, so just
Yeah.
consumer products in
Right.
general. Banking may be a little bit more tricky just because regulatory environments can be quite different, but I think especially on the consumer facing side, where you're seeing a lot of growth in, say, West Africa or East Africa, that could be the opportunity through Namibia into Angola. On the mining side, I think, as we've mentioned, there is opportunity, and you are seeing the large miners coming in to look at investing in uranium. And then the other side, I think, is the infrastructure. The story of infrastructure in Namibia is a very strong one. We know government still maintains control over its strategic sectors in power and rail and port infrastructure.
Should they?
I think that's right. I think that's right for now, because there's a significant need to upgrade and develop all those sectors. And so there's an opportunity there possibly for public-private partnerships, but also for significant investments to come from the East or other areas, even South Africa.
Yeah, let's bring Tara into the conversation. Tara, obviously you are on the ground, and therefore you deal with these guys that are looking at Namibia, those that are coming from outside the country and those that are inside the country. Give me a few hot sectors, please. She's suggested consumer-facing sectors, then there's also the mining sector. Is there anything else that anyone else hasn't discovered yet?
Well, there are many other sectors. There has been a growth in the interest in terms of oil and gas exploration. Namibia, there has been some gas discovered in the southern part of Namibia, and there is a lot of exploration that is taking place now in the oil and gas industry. There are many people who believe that Namibia has the potential to possess oil and gas resources, and there is a lot of efforts being made in that regard. We, of course, have a lot of opportunities, not only in Angola, but also in other countries like Zambia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Namibia has been developing infrastructure to reach out to those markets, and I think there are potential also to export from Namibia, or using Namibia as a launching pad to enter into those markets, especially those landlocked countries where they don't have the access to the sea. And of course, last week we saw the ruling party's policy conference taking place, where they looked at a number of policy options. And what has come out, especially from the press conferences that the Secretary General of the SWAPO party has been holding during the conference, was that a lot of policies were going to change so that the competitiveness of the economy is improved.
Now, if you were going to give me just one issue that you would like addressed by the government, assume I'm the president here of Namibia. I'm not. I want to make that clear. But assuming I am, what advice would you give me in terms of the one thing that you'd like addressed?
Well, I think it's important to address the land delivery in urban areas as far as business is concerned. I think the process is still a bit slow. I know that has been one of the issues that the policy conference of the ruling party has been looking at, so that they can be sent to or given to government to look at. But I think that is probably one of the greatest area of concern to business in Namibia that needs to be addressed.
Tara Shanika is CEO of the Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for joining us from Windhoek. We're going now for a quick commercial break. There will be more in West Africa right after the break.